Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go! So I'm trying to mend the fence with your buddy Luke Wilson, and so far it looks like it's going like we've been talking behind the scenes. And actually, to be honest with you, told me this. You said if we ever sat down and talked, we'd get along famously. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but it's been a respectful conversation behind the scenes. And I think his biggest problem, in my opinion, is he hasn't articulated himself correctly. Because, as I would say, you know what I mean?
Sure. What did I say? The very first time this whole thing came up, I said to you, if I had $1 billion, I'd buy TSN. The first thing I'd do is put you two on a show together because you guys are both so passionate about football, both so passionate about the Canadian Football League and Canadian football in general. Luke being a Canadian guy that went to NCAA, went to the NFL, now comes back and coaches lower level football, minor football, and then obviously the sideline stuff. So, I'm glad you guys are finally talking.
Yeah,
not over the Twitter airwaves or whatever, what have you. But I said he's a great dude, one of the, a teammate, one of the best teammates ever had. And you, Ballsy, I've known you for 25 years now. And honestly, Ballsy, like I don't agree with half the things you say.
It's true, but we love each other. Well, we love each other, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And you've always supported me, so I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of teams, one that I have a vested interest in and one that I've been around my whole life, the Riders. Riders are 6-1, but they're not getting a lot of – they're not getting disrespected, but I don't know that they're getting the respect they deserve at 6-1 as they go in to play 5-2 Montreal. It's almost like we're trying to find ways to reason why they're not 6-1 or why they are 6-1.
That's what it's like to play for the Riders in Saskatchewan. It's just the way it is. The fans try to pick you apart, and that's part of the reason why they're the best fans in the league. They're passionate about it, and they'll pick the team apart. But hey, we're 6-1. We're still a little ways away from Labor Day. If we go into Labor Day, the Riders go into Labor Day 8-2 or whatever. I mean, it's going to be incredible. I mean, this is going to be obviously a good test coming up on Saturday in Montreal. Always a tough place to play in my experience. So that'll be a good test for them. It'd be great for Rider Nation if they came out of that one 7-1.
Yeah. So why is Montreal a tough place to play? They don't have the horns there anymore, or they're not supposed to. I think they're supposed to plug a few in. But why is it? Yeah, but you know what? Thank God. But at the same time, I'm like, that's what made it unique. Why? I think it's great fan experience when you're sitting on the sideline, and I've been there. I played there in Winnipeg in 2005. We were down 35-0 at half, and I wanted to go in the stand and break every one of those freaking horns in half. So that's my memory of it. Watching it on TV and hearing those, I think it's great, but I just have bad memories of that place. I don't know what it was. It feels like every time I played there, it was raining, it was windy. It's remember back in the day playing against Anthony Calvillo and him just, as I said, 35-0 at half, him just ripping us apart. It never felt right. I think even the last time I played there was 2000. I think it was 19 or 21. I can't remember. But halfway through the third quarter, the rain started coming down. The thunder and lightning started coming down. Yeah. And we ended up winning the game after 2.5 quarters somehow. I think there was 5 minutes left in the third quarter. So even that just didn't feel right. So I maybe it's my personal reflecting or my experiences, but it seems to me a tough place to play. Now you seem like a professional. Okay, you seem like a professional. You are. But was that the biggest party town when you went on the road? Like for other guys, maybe?
I think it was. Toronto was always up there too. But Montreal is kind of the place the guys kind of had checked on their calendar for a bit of a party. I was always the guy that if I was going to have some beers or have a party, it was strictly after the game. It wasn't trying to sneak in a few extracurriculars the night before by any means. I was never that guy. And, I don't think there was a lot of those guys in the NFL. There's always a few in the CFL, but I always hope that my teammates kind of saw that the same way.
So let's talk about that, because that's one of the bone of contentions I had with what Luke was saying. And once again, I'm not going to speak on our private conversation. I'm going to let him articulate it, okay? But, like, the perception is, and I talked to actually a couple of other CFL guys ex-CFL guys who played in the NFL because they saw her back and forth, so they reached out to me.
Yep.
And they said there is a perception in the NFL that you go to the CFL to drink, smoke weed, eat cheesies, and play video games, and then fit in football. Is that kind of a perception?
I don't know if that's I think a few guys think that. I've seen a few guys think that and then not even make it through the second week of training camp. You know, I've seen that a lot. I've seen guys. I think even I'm not saying Chad Johnson did this, but I think he had the attitude that he was going to come and just rip the CFL apart. And he's very open about saying these guys can ball. Like, these guys are great football players. So I think he might have had that that thought in his head that he was going to do that, and then very quickly found out it's not that easy. But it is just a different atmosphere when you have that 4.5 hour rule. You're out of there by 12:30 in the afternoon or 1 o'clock, depending on how the team does it. And then you're just kind of hanging out with a bunch of dudes. You know, a lot of times you live in the same houses together. You live in the same apartment blocks. And it's a little bit more of a video game party atmosphere in the CFL because of that, I think.
So, but here's the thing. Do you not have to be, by the way, my significant other just brought an ice cream. We got this protein ice cream. I can eat. No, but this is like for a diabetic. I can eat this all day. It's just protein and it's unbelievable, bro.
Is it homemade?
It's homemade. It's with our ice creamer. Yeah, go to Costco and pick one up, buddy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, you will eat like a half a gallon, and you're putting on protein for those muscles. Anyway,
there you go.
All right. Sidetrack, dude. Anyway, no, but here's my argument. Like, listen. You guys get paid way more in the NFL than you ever did in the CFL. It's impossible to think that CFL guys will be mandated for 10 hours to be at a facility because that's minimum wage for their average salary. It's unrealistic, okay? But I think you have to be just as much of a professional, if not more, in the CFL for this reason, because you are left to your own devices. So you really have to be disciplined and focused. Like, you have to prove you're a pro in the CFL in that sense is what I mean.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think there are definitely guys that come here and they put in 4.5 hours a day and they go home. But the majority of the guys, you know, they're watching film on their own or watching film in groups. Guys are working out on their own as well a lot of the time. So really, to be a professional, you have to put in more hours of that. But, CFL's a long season. Come week 20, week 21, not all guys are doing that. And it's hard to blame them because it's a grind. Playing the CFL is a grind. You know, we don't have these big fancy private planes we fly around on and, 5-star hotels and, the nutritionists and the sleep people and in the NFL, they have everything to take care of you. And the CFL they just don't have that kind of money. So it's, as you said, it's hard because I think that it probably would be a higher quality of football if it was an 8 or 9 hour day.
Yeah.
But, I played with guys like Wade Miller, who he was making probably 5 times more money in the afternoon at his business than he was in the morning playing the CFL. And guys like that, a good Canadian guy who played for 11 or 12 years, probably would have played for 4 or 5 if we were doing 8 or 9 hours a day just because he had so much stuff outside that was making him more money.
Well, I think what pisses Luke off is, and I don't necessarily disagree. Well, I don't disagree with it because I've been ranting about it for a while. Is the coach's cap, that ridiculous coach's cap that it hamstrings. If you could have a couple of extra coaches or bring in some more quality coaches, it would improve the product. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, with the cap now, it handcuffs these owners and these GMs, man. Like, I mean, they have like 7, 8 coaches. Some of them are barely working for minimum wage. And then if something happens, you got to fire the staff, and they still have a year on their contract. I mean, we were kind of in that situation with Chris Jones in Edmonton when I got there in 2022, and we had coaches on that staff that were working for stipends. I mean, we were professional coaches basically working for free, and it just didn't make sense. I think originally, correct me if I'm wrong, they brought the rule in because there's teams like the Riders at the time who had millions of dollars, and they could have 15 coaches.
It was Craig. Let's be honest. It was Craig Reynolds' fault in a way. I'm not totally blaming him, but he started it because he let Chris Jones spend like a drunken sailor here. He had 2 teams. He had one who would come and practice after the first practice, and he had all the coaches and everything like that. So it was a Craig Reynolds thing where he kind of let Chris Jones do what he wanted. Now, was he cheating? No, he wasn't cheating because there was no rules then. But they're like, okay, well, we gotta switch things up here.
I heard stories about that, and it was like the Wild West. I mean, I love Chris Jones, but he will, if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. And that's what it takes to be a professional coach in a lot of places. And he as I heard, he basically had two squads. One squad was, living their normal lives. The other half was living at the U of R dorms. And they're, I always hear all these rumors. I don't know how much is true, but that's kind of what I heard. And they were kind of practice after the practice, and it was a bit of a wild, wild west situation.
So we've got 7 starters for Canadians on the field, and you said coaches will find ways to get around it, okay? And here's what they do. In a lot of cases, we talk about how are we going to get more points? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? They load up on defense with Americans, and that really hamstrings, and not cutting Canadian players down, but they'll have like 10 Americans on defense, 2 Canadians. Here's my proposal, and it's 4 years away or whatever, because I think there's still 4 years left on the CBA, so you can't really do anything now.
Yeah.
But the next CBA, are we in agreement? This is the best there's ever been for Canadian players. Like, you've never seen Canadian receivers like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it starts right from the ground up. You've seen guys, your son was one of them, going from Canadian high school football to college football in the U.S., and we're seeing it. Back in the day, it was like nobody. It rarely ever happened. Now we're seeing dozens of guys every year with the training we're getting in Canada now, with these elite teams, with these Team Saskatchewan, these provincial teams. Guys are playing 25 football games a year instead of 6. Like back when I was in high school, I played 6 games in a regular season.
Yeah.
It was totally different. Now, guys are getting this experience, and now it comes up. Now these guys are playing NCAA. They're coming out. It's making the Canadian content way better. So
with that in mind, we've both acknowledged that. I say in the next, I'd like to see it go to 10. Some people are saying that's way too much with injuries, but I think you could go a minimum of 8. You could go one more starter for sure, and then maybe revisit it after a couple of years. I'd like to see 10, like I said, but balance it. 4 on offense. Yeah. 4 on defense. You have to play 4 on offense, 4 on defense, and none of this nationalized Americans. Like, if you're a guy that's played in this center for 4 years, you get 49% of the Canadian snaps. That's bullshit. I'm totally against that.
No, I agree with you. I'd love to see some type of balance. If we go to 9, you have to have at least 4 guys on offense, 4 guys on defense, then a 9th man can go either way. But I would like to see some balance. As you said, just absolutely loading up one side of the ball with Americans, and then you have your Canadian linemen, maybe your Canadian inside receivers. If you have a ratio breaker running back, you can do that. But I would like to see a little more balance.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the team I have a vested interest in, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Can you get some of the fans, and at least one media guy said this could be, and I won't use his name, is this the end of Mike O'Shea's tenure? Like, could we be seeing the end of Mike O'Shea's tenure? John,
is that a serious question?
Yeah, that's honest to God. That's right. So if you got rid of Mike O'Shea, who would you replace him with? He's been to 5 Grey Cups in a row.
I would replace him with, does Mike O'Shea have a brother or a twin brother? I'd replace him with him. I mean, you know what? I feel like almost every season, the first 10 games for Winnipeg are kind of hit or miss a little bit, but they never panic. And they're coming down. The season doesn't really start. I shouldn't quite say this. The real season starts after Labor Day. Those last 8 games. Because with 8 games left, you could be 1-8, 1-9, and still make the playoffs. It is possible. Calgary won the Grey Cup. How many years ago? They were 8-10 in the regular season. The Riders won the Grey Cup in what was considered the greatest season in the history of the Riders, 1989, and they were 9-9. Okay, so I mean, you just have to get in the tournament, and Winnipeg proves that down the stretch they're tougher than anyone over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, for sure.
I don't know who said that. Everyone has their opinion, but I mean, I would give Mike O'Shea a 20-year contract right now. There's no way I'd ever get rid of it. It's a little bit like Dave Dickinson. I would never get rid of Dave Dickinson either. Yeah,
he signs 1 year at a time. Yeah, man, you want to talk? He signs 1 year at a time, O'Shea. Yeah, you want to talk about Coach of the Year right now? It's Dave Dickinson right now. Like, Dave Dickinson is the guy right now.
I mean, to really, tear that coaching staff down. I know it was 2 years ago. They got rid of Bo Levi, and now to come out 5-2. I did not see this coming. I thought they were going to be at the bottom with Edmonton. I thought they were going to be kind of 2-5, 3-4 right now, and they're they're not at the bottom at all. They're fighting for the top, which is great to see.
Edmonton, man, like new coach, new president who I like. I like Chris Morris. Don't really know Ed Hervey. He's rough around the edges. I kind of like that. For those kind of guys. Yeah, that's right. You say that with a smile. And Mark Killen's a good dude. But as Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are, and they still stink. They still stink.
Yeah, I mean, another 1-5 start, and it's tough when you watch games out there and you see how many empty seats they have in that stadium. They've lost the fans over the especially since COVID. But I think they're losing them before that, and have that. When I was there, I think we were on like a 3-year streak where we didn't win at home. that is pretty painful to say to fans. And I like the new owner. I think going private was the right deal for them. I think getting this, an old Elkimo fan with deep pockets and come in there, and I thought he could kind of turn it around. And it's not too late. I think that I don't know what is Cody the number one guy now, or is Trey Ford?
Yes, Trey Ford's the backup.
He came into Regina a couple of weeks ago and played pretty good. Passing for I think 344. He was like 25 of 38, something like that. So I don't think they're done yet, but you gotta turn it around pretty quick here.
So is it easier? Like, talk about being in a locker room where you're struggling, but it's a veteran team like Winnipeg. They've lost 3 straight, and they've been handed their lunch in 3 straight games. Okay, but they're a veteran team. But then you got a team over here that just finds a way to lose all the time. Is it like, just talk about the different mentalities in those 2 locker rooms, because you've been in 2 situations.
I mean, I don't. From my experience, Winnipeg right now is just kind of calm, cool, collective. They got us. They had a better day than us. They got us. That's fine. And in a situation in Edmonton, there's usually a lot of finger pointing, a lot of infighting, a lot of ugly things going on. I've been on both sides, and that's kind of how it normally goes. I know that when I was on all those teams in Seattle, we never jumped out to a real bad start. But I remember losing to teams, and they were just like, they got us. We just ran out of time. They got us. That's fine. Whereas the other teams, and you lose a close game, there's finger pointing, there's yelling, someone wants to throw the kicker under the bus, someone says the quarterback sucks. It just keeps on going and going, and it's tough to be around, and that cancer is contagious. So,
of course he's going to say this. Why would he say anything different? But has the cheese fallen off the cracker on Pete Carroll, your old buddy there? He said they're going to win 10. They're going to win. He goes, I don't win anything less than 10 games. Like, I'm winning
I love it.
I'm winning 10 games this year with the Raiders.
Hey, I went on another show and said he's going to win 12 or 13.
Really?
So the cheese might be all the way off the cracker out here in Cali for me, buddy.
Oh, wow.
In Pete, I trust. I think they got a quarterback now. He went out and got his running. He's doing the same things I saw him do in Seattle 15 years ago. Got his quarterback, went and got his running back. He went out and got Marshawn. All he wanted to do was get Marshawn. It took him 7 or 8 weeks, but he got Marshawn. He's starting to put together that defense. I'm seeing the same things that he did in Seattle, and I think at this point, in Seattle, it kind of took him 3 years to get going. I think he knows he has to get going right now. The guy's almost 74 years old. He can't coach forever. He knows he has to get this thing turned around and get going right now.
So I don't know, I never gave you a heads up on this interview, so it might take you some time. I want you to think about 2 locks for you this year. 2 locks NFL, like 2 lock 'em in. Here's my lock 'em ins. If the Bills don't go to the Super Bowl, Sean McDermott's fired. That's my first lock.
Wow.
And my second lock is the Dallas Cowboys will be the worst team in the NFL this year.
Really?
That's my second lock. Yeah. Lock it in.
Wow. Okay. You caught me off guard here.
I know.
But obviously, I like the Bills. I like the Bills. I think I kind of looked at the Lions schedule, and I don't think they're going to be that 15-win team that we saw last year. I think they're going to be like an 10-11 team win all of a sudden. So, off the bat, you think that. And I kind of looked at their schedule, I'm like, they could go out like 3-3. You don't know. They got a tough matchup. When you finish in first place, now you got to play 4 other first-place teams.
And they're not going to sneak up on anybody either.
And I don't see the Commanders coming out. Jaden Daniels had an unbelievable year last year, but they won a lot of those games by the skin of their teeth. So I don't – and then, the Chiefs are fading. I hate to say this. I really freaking hate to say this on your show. It's going to absolutely kill me. But the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles are a team that I think are a lock. I think it's Justin Herbert's year. He's shown so much. It's been great. And you know what? I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to come back strong. I mean, Joe Burrow had a year last year that I think it got enough attention. I think everything in the NFL gets enough attention now. But they came out and they were so bad to start the year, and he was really the only guy that was really getting the ball moving and putting up the stats. And he had, any other year he could have been the MVP of the league. They probably win 2 or 3 more games. They're probably talking about him just as well as they're talking about Josh Allen. So those are my 2 teams. Do I have a lock for a bad team? Oh man, not really. I look at it and that's the great thing about the NFL is I feel like, week 1, everyone's got a shot. With the salary cap the way it is, everyone has a shot.
My Super Bowl's this. Buffalo. against Tampa Bay.
Wow.
Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Laugh at me if you will, but he's a top 10 quarterback.
I love the way he's had a second life in Tampa Bay. You know, when you see a first overall pick like that start to bounce around, that's a career ender. You know, you start to bounce around. What he played in 3 teams in 1 year, I think it was, and then just like that's done. Signs in Tampa and just turns the whole thing around. You know, not only that, he's fun to watch. And I can tell when you watch him, every player on that team will run through a brick wall for him. They love the guy. Yeah. And so I like that. You know what? You know, I think Pittsburgh's going to win 11 or 12 games.
There we go. That's where I was going with my last question for you. So if Mike Tomlin can win with Rudolph and win with Kenny Pickett and not have a losing record, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, even at 41, can't be that bad. He's
been winning 10 games a year with, you know, I don't want to say bad quarterbacks, but I want to say below average quarterbacks. He hasn't had a Ben Roethlisberger since Ben Roethlisberger left. And I think Aaron Rodgers could put something together here. You know, I think people talked like that too when he was in New York, and it definitely did not happen, partially because of the injury. But I think he could put together one more great campaign, and it could be a special time in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so lastly, bro, you're in California. Everybody thinks you're living the high life there. You have wildfires, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking about you because there's a tsunami warning. Was it ever in a precarious situation for you there?
No, not yet. I know that everything. All the reports that it's already weakening. Yeah. I had some friends in Hawaii. They got out of there, luckily. But I haven't seen any effects of it yet. But I know it's still something will come.
Hey, man, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Kicking it with Jon Ryan's always fun.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, Dean, you're back after a 1-week hiatus. I just gave you a week off. I used your stats, but and gave you credit. I just gave you a week off. So let's rewind right away from the game we last saw. It doesn't look like Bo Levi Mitchell's season last year was a fluke. 389 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was probably the highlight of his passing stats. We'll talk about that secondly, but yeah, Bo looks like he's back or still here.
It looks like it's the Calgary Bo is back. And I must say, Ballsy, in my mind, the BC Hamilton game, that was the game of the year. Up and down the field, Hamilton down by 10 with under a couple minutes to go and scores 2 late touchdowns to eke out a 37-33 victory.
Yeah, and everybody's kind of on Nathan. Like, a lot of people are saying, Nathan Rourke. Rourke's been pretty good. I mean, it's not his fault they can't play defense the best of times.
Yeah, it seems like Mike Benavides is having some real challenge there in terms of coordinating the defense from the Lions side because the Lions, they put up points. They lost to Saskatchewan 33-27, fell behind early. The Achilles heel for the Lions has always been first quarter scoring. They're the worst in the league. And against Hamilton, they got out. They had 2 James Butler touchdowns early on. But then Bo does what Bo does, and Bo came back and found the way to have a tremendous passing game, nearly 400 yards passing, and they get the win.
So it wasn't a 1980s crowd, but it was nice. A sunny day in Vancouver, and they had about almost 23,000. So that was nice to see in the stands. Now, the biggest talk of the game was the interception by Robert Carter Jr. Wow. He did one of those in college, and he does one in the CFL. That is, in my opinion, the best interception we've ever seen. And dare I say, top 3 play of all time in CFL history. Like, can you think of too many better than that?
No, I can't. I know Deron Carter had the reception against the Argos of the pass from Kevin Glenn in the 2017 season. That was an incredible catch. Brian Burnham had some great touchdown receptions for the BC Lions. But Carter's interception, just the way he was able to leap, one hand the ball, come down, and basically didn't lose the ball when he made contact with the ground, so held on to it. So again, probably the best interception that I can recall seeing in the CFL.
We're doing the human side here first before we get to your computers, okay? Because you are the guy of CFL Simulation. If people are just tuning in for the first time, and he is the dean at the Edwards School of Business in Saskatoon. Riders, Edmonton, it wasn't a pretty game, but hey, we don't critique wins around here, as the old Oilers coach Craig McTavish said. 6-1 is 6-1. I guess all's well that ends well. I didn't think Cody was very good at the start. I thought, when are we going to put Trey Ford in here? At least he can run away from pressure. But Cody ended up with a decent football game, 349 yards passing. But, man, that offensive line for Edmonton, I wonder if Cody was seeing ghosts back on Mosaic turf.
Yeah, it was like it almost harkened back to Cody Fajardo at Mosaic in 2022, playing behind a porous offensive line and being sacked repeatedly. As a Rider fan, I love the outcome. I'll admit the first half of the game had all the excitement of a Canadian Parliamentary Channel broadcast. It was pathetic. Again, it got obviously exciting in the third and fourth quarters. But I was looking nervously, wondering if Killam was going to put in Trey Ford, because Trey Ford is a Rider killer. And I felt if had he gone in, again, I'm not trying to coach the Elks. I have a hard enough time being a Rider fan. But I thought Trey Ford would have brought a change of pace. And again, he can do things athletically that Cody can't do.
I wonder if they are going to lose Trey Ford mentally. Like, I wonder what kind of Ford, because he got, in his mind, he got jerked around last year. And they gave him more money and promised him he'd get a leash. They'd look at him. They'd give him a chance to win the job and have the job. And we're not even through summer, and he's the backup now to Cody Fajardo. Looks like they're going to keep going that way. So I wonder mentally if they lose him.
It almost looks like 2024 BC Lions with Nathan Rourke and VA in terms of maybe. And again, I don't know if there's any locker room division or divisiveness going on with the Elks, but yeah, I know. Again, if I were running the Elks, I'd give Trey Ford the longest of long leashes, because to me he's somebody who I could see for the future, and Cody's like this season, and maybe that's it in terms of his functionality.
They play hard. The defense, it was probably their best performance this year. I'm talking Edmonton, but you're 1-5. Like, what?
Yeah,
like, you still stink.
Yeah, and it seems, when the Edmonton running backs have 5 carries for 5 yards, come on. I know we are in the CFL that we're oriented towards the passing game, but you got to have some ability to run the ball. And I think that really hurt the Elks, and also the inability to stop AJ Ouellette on a 17-yard carry with under 2 minutes left, when everybody on the planet knew that AJ was going to get the ball. Yeah, again, come close. Doesn't really count in the standings, though.
That was a nice win by Montreal in Calgary. Listen, I love VA, Vernon Adams, and he's off to a great start. He's probably the best at throwing from different arm angles in the league. But VA, get down, man. If there's one thing about VA, he's tough. I'm not saying he's not tough, but he's injury prone. He gets hurt. It seems relatively easy, or often, maybe is the way to say it. Get down, VA. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I would have bet the farm. That Stan Peters would have, won by 14 or 17 over the Alouettes, given that MBT was quarterbacking the Owls and not Davis Alexander. Calgary has, again, that early lead, but then MBT brought the team back, and you noticed a real drop-off when the Stan Peters went to the backup quarterback, Quincy. Once VA got hurt, it was pretty slim pickings for the Calgary offense.
Actually, let me correct you, Mr. Professor Man. It wasn't Quincy. It was a PJ Walker, the XFL
yes.
NFL cast-off. Didn't look that great. Didn't even get a first down. So
No.
VA didn't practice today as we're taping this thing. So I don't know if he'll play in Ottawa. So we'll see there. And then, of course, Toronto and Winnipeg. I had a vested interest in that one. It's still can't put into words watching your son play a professional game. I wasn't there. My buddy, who happened to be there for a medical appointment, took all the videos and pictures. It was awesome. The Bombers did a great job. Real classy organization, too. They made it a big deal for him. They involved him in a lot of social media pictures and everything, which I thought was really cool. And that's what not because it's my son, Keith, but just that's why the ratio is important, because it means something to Canadian kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, Ballsy, you said in the past that there's probably 2,600 athletes playing football across North America, Canada, and the U.S., which means there's about 2,600 moms and dads out there that get that privilege of seeing their sons play the sport. So hats off to you, Ballsy. I think that's a good accomplishment for being the dad, that you can watch your son Ethan proudly. Again, I'm a Rider fan, but I tip my cap to the Bombers organization. They've been to five straight Grey Cups. And last year, the Bombers got off on a real bad footing. O'Shea brought him back. Again, I know Collaros is hurt. I know Dalton Schoen's hurt. I know the team's getting older, but to me, if I've got one game that I need to win and I got one coach I can pick, O'Shea's coming pretty close to the top of that list.
Well, they're not playing. Listen, I don't expect, and I know you're not, but I don't expect you to treat the Bombers with kid gloves, because my kid's on the team. And I said when I started this thing, and Ethan ended up there, that I would cover 9 teams, but one would kind of be off limits, just because I have a vested interest, and you got to watch, because I'm a media guy here, Ballsy Uncut, but I'm a dad too, right? And it's about my kid now. But they're not playing good football. They're not playing connected football. They don't look anything like the team that's been to 5 Grey Cups. I know last year it was 0-4 and 2-6, but they had lost a bunch of games by a close amount of points. They've got mollywopped 3 games in a row, so that does have to be a concern in Winnipeg. Having said that, Hamilton beats BC, and you're 3-3, so you're a hell of a lot better than you were last year, I guess.
Exactly, and I'll say again, as an outsider looking at the Winnipeg's performance, I think it shows how much they miss Kenny Lawler.
Yeah.
Brady Oliveira, he can still move the ball in chunks, and to me, he's dangerous. But I know Schoen is hurt, but I think the Bombers are missing some real threats in terms of being able to extend the field with the passing game.
Well, and Logan hasn't played for them yet, Peyton Logan, and I don't know when that's going to happen. Dylan Mitchell's been on the practice roster, one of their prized off-season signings. He might get a chance now that Case goes down with that wonky injury on the bad turf there. So we'll see what happens. But Winnipeg-Toronto, the rematch, I have no idea what's going on there in the locker room. And if I did, I wouldn't say it anyway. But I think personally they should sit Zach Collaros down for a couple of games. Like, let's get your head. I think maybe he rushed back a little too quick. That's just my opinion. I think they should just sit him a little bit and just try. But that team, listen, just like Trey Ford, we can talk about Trey Ford. Edmonton's defense till the last week sucked ass. They were terrible. So you can't blame Trey Ford. Nathan Rourke had X amount of yards passing, and his defense lets him down in a lot of cases. And same thing here, like Winnipeg's defense has not been very good this year. Willie Jefferson, these guys got to step up and play some football. And now if Chris Streveler, whoever's quarterbacking, you need to play a good, sound team game.
Agreed. And from what I've seen from Streveler this year, I'd be concerned if I were on the Bomber side for resting Collaros, because Streveler seems to have lost. Again, I know he wasn't a couple years ago. He's not the second coming of Dieter Brock in Winnipeg, and he's not Don Jonas 2.0. But he was, to me, a couple years ago, he was able to move the ball more successfully. He had a terrible game, the loss against the Stampeders. He threw the pick 6. I know he had a good touchdown pass against the Argos, but I don't know. To me, if I were on the Bomber side, I'd want to ride Collaros as long as I could.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the computer now. If I look at I don't remember the stats he sent me, so I'm winging it here. But if a team starts 0-2 and then they win 5 games in a row, including going from east to west, which is never easy, just like west to east isn't easy, and in comeback fashion, 10 points down to win the game, I would think your old Commodore 64 likes the Hamilton Tiger Cats now.
Yeah, loves the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They're now 26% chance of hoisting the Grey Cup. And again, they haven't won a Grey Cup, I believe, since the 99 season. Yep. I think Ron Lancaster was coach at that time. Yep. So, think of the Riders. We've been on a bit of a trough. Like they've got, a quarter century where they won a Grey Cup. So the computer loves the Tiger Cats, that 5-game winning streak. They're establishing themselves as the team to beat in the East. And again, Bo is playing that Calgary Bowl right now.
So, hey, say what you want. The Riders are 6-1. They've got the best record in the league. Would that lead me to down the path with your computer that the Riders are the West team they're loving the computer's loving right now?
No, the computer loves Calgary. Calgary, 49% chance of winning the Grey Cup. Saskatchewan, only 12%. And again, I know maybe this is going to cause some frustration with Rider Nation when they hear these comments, but the computer doesn't love the Riders. The Riders, again, 6-1. I applaud that. There aren't many times in my life when by the end of July, the Riders are sitting atop of the Western Division. But 5 of the Riders' 6 victories have been by 7 points or fewer. Again, I know that the win in BC was 33-27, but it was the score favored the Lions. But other teams have been able to win more handily. And because the computer looks at a metric of margin of victory, it's not really sold yet on the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
But I will say this in defense of the Roughriders. They have every team goes through it, but the Riders have navigated nicely the injury bug. They have to this point. And to be 6-1, navigating the injury bug, I always talk about it, Keith, early season equity, and the Riders are building it up because at some point they're going to slide a bit.
They are, but I do wonder with the injuries, especially with Canadian receiver. And you and I have talked about Canadians being the core of team success. With Keon Schaefer-Baker out and Samuel Emelis looked like he aggravated some injury. Del Duncan Busby appeared to be injured during the game. Mitch Picton was on the 1-game list. Deshaun Mims, maybe not there yet. Tommy Neal, I don't know. Joe, at least a month till he comes back if he gets cut by the Indianapolis Colts. So to me, it's getting thin at Canadian receiver, and that's the bit of a stuck spot now for the green and white.
So I'm going to preface this by saying I've always had respect for all the athletes, okay? I understand better than anybody right now what they go through, the injuries and all that type of stuff. So I'm not disparaging a player because he's injured, okay? But if you're a Rider fan, should you be concerned that KSB is going down the same path as Braden Lenius?
Yeah, that's actually that's a pretty good connection. Again, both Canadian receivers, both came in, and I'd say had phenomenal success. Lenius, again, before he tried out with the NFL, then came back and really wasn't the same. When KSB is good, he's incredible. You think back to last year's West Final, I think he had 11 or 12 receptions. He played basically like probably 2 or 3 minutes in the Ottawa game, injured. And again, we saw injuries last year, so the best part of ability is availability. And if KSB is not available, boy, it's really tough because we rely on the stars to be there and to show up healthy. And if KSB again has lingering issues, to me that's nagging in terms of his ability to be a long-term superstar in the CFL.
So a coach is always using we fans and media pundits. I'll include you in that, a fan and a media pundit. That's good. You can wear 2 hats. We use the next man up phrase, and it's good, but there's a reason why they're the next man up, because they're not the first man up. And sometimes, and you can only go so many next men up before it catches up with you.
And that's why, again, you look at the Canadian receivers as being a potential trouble spot. We'll see with the O-line. Again, Zach Fry was injured, and we've had a rotating list of athletes playing left tackle for the green and white. Again, how long can you go before it begins to get porous in terms of the team's success?
Take the helmet off, though, for Noah Zaire. He did great coming in. He was cut in training camp, comes back and steps in and does a pretty good job. Okay, so I see your stats here now. You talked about the Riders, 12% chance to win the Grey Cup. What do we got for the Riders down the stretch here for a record?
12-6. So maybe a bit of a plateau. Again, the Riders right now 6-1. If the Riders just won their home games for the rest of the season and lost the road games, they'd be 11-7.
Yeah.
So the computer is giving them a 12-6, good enough for second place in the West. Calgary finishing first with a 13-5 record. But it doesn't see the Riders, going to that 14-4, 15-3 level, which I think is accurate. The Riders have a tough schedule. They played Bombers 3 times, and Saskatchewan has not won in Manitoba since 2018. So big picture there. Manitoba's a tough place to win. They've got to go to Montreal on Saturday. That's a challenging situation. You got to go to Calgary. Calgary, I know the Calgary game when the Riders are there, it's like 50-50 for the fans. But Calgary is playing with more spirit than they played the last couple of years.
So your computer went 3-1 this week. I went 3-1 this week as well. So yeah. Did you pick this week? I didn't have you on. So how did you do personally in the picks?
0-4. I went 0-4.
Oh, you're having a little bit of a tough season there.
A tough season because, and again, not that I'm trying to sound like Mr. Negative for the Riders, but I would have gone with the Elks because the Elks have had our number. They've won 3 of the last 4 trips in Mosaic, and I know that there was a disparity in the records. But again, I was incredibly nervous about that game. To me, that was a real trap game for the green and white.
Okay, let's go through the week here. We'll do the computer picks and then we'll pick here. So Calgary against Ottawa. Right now, we don't know if VA is going to be the quarterback, so that could weigh into it heavily. I'm going to go. Okay, you tell me what the computer's got there.
Computer, definitely Calgary, 64%.
Okay, I've got Ottawa. I think Ottawa's going to win. Only because I didn't like what I saw from PJ Walker. If VA, that's the thing. I don't know if VA's playing. Okay, you're right. I'm going Calgary. They're good enough to win. Yeah. But PJ Walker didn't look great if he's the quarterback. Yeah, I'll go Calgary.
They could play Peter Lisk out there for the Stampeders against Ottawa. To me, you've got an incredible running game with the Stampeders. They've got some athletes and receiver, and to me, Ottawa's been the disappointment because I had them pegged as the dark horse for the East, and it looks like they're just basically getting in place for the first round draft pick for next year's CFL draft.
I don't fire anybody on this show. I never have. Okay, I don't do that. But the infamous, the kiss of support, right? Sean Burke said, no, I support Bob Dice. He still can lead us, blah, blah, blah. They're on their bye week. No moves made. They come out here and they lay an egg and lose to Calgary on home turf where they were good last year, but not so good this year. Could we see Bob Dice and Rick Campbell take over? You've got Rick Campbell right there, sitting right there.
Yeah, I think to me that's it's a show-up game for Coach Dice. To me, it's one of those games where his longevity in the position is going to be impacted by what happens on Thursday when Calgary goes to Ottawa.
I don't see any way in HE double hockey sticks the Edmonton Elks beat Hamilton. Can't see it. Won't see it. Don't see it.
Yeah, the computer, again, going with the road team there, about 67% chance of victory. Me personally, I'm not trying to sound like I'm Trey Ford's agent, but if Trey Ford were playing, I'd be more optimistic with the Elks' chances. But Hamilton, they're the combination of Bo Levi and Kenny Lawler is amazing, and from an 0-2 start, the Riders got the Ticats the right time of the season. I know we get to play them in mid-August, but to me, the Ticats are the class of the East right now.
Well, I tell you what, though. Here's something, though. I don't agree with. I don't know that it'll be a blowout. I think Hamilton wins. Your computer has them 67.3% chance of winning. But keep this in mind: Hamilton to BC, back to Hamilton, back to Edmonton. I know they're not taking a bus, but still, that's not easy.
It is grueling, and again, it's the second game of that 2-game Western swing, so to speak. If there's a possibility that the Elks pull the upset, I think you hit upon a key leverage point for the Elks. But again, Bo has played over the past 5 games remarkably well, and his clinic against BC was amazing. What was he, 34 out of 41 for 389 yards? Just an incredible performance by Bo Levi.
Winnipeg's tackling stunk against Toronto. Some of that maybe had to do with the field, although both teams played on the same field. Winnipeg doesn't take a lot of penalties traditionally, and they protect the football. They've been taking more penalties than ever under Mike O'Shea in the last 5 years. And this is an unbelievable stat. The Bombers in the last 3 games have turned the football over 17 times and only taken it away 3 times. They're minus 14 in this 3-game skid. They're at Princess Auto Stadium. If I was a bet man, I'd say Zach Claros is not playing in that game. What do you say for I can't believe I'm saying this. What do you say for my Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
The computer has the Bombers by the slimmest of margins, 50.2%, so nearly a pick'em game, but siding slightly with the Blue Bombers. Keith Willoughby just taking off the computer and just, what do I think as a fan? It's Bombers by 10. The Bombers are not going to lose back-to-back to the Argos with this Grey Cup rematch. Winnipeg's home field advantage is the strongest in the league. And I know that, again, they've lost some home games this season. But again, they could roll out I don't know, Buck Pierce, who used to quarterback for the Bombers. To me, they can hand the ball out to Brady Oliveira. They'll control the game.
Yeah,
they'll right the ship.
I'll tell you what, though, Nick Arbuckle has the Bombers' number, and we need to talk about Nick Arbuckle. Without Chad Kelly, who's back on the 6th game, the Grey Cup MVP has risen to the occasion. He played pretty decent against the Riders. He looked good against the Blue Bombers. Nick Arbuckle hasn't been the reason why they're struggling early on this year.
No, and Toronto definitely has, we see it with some talent on the offensive side. They've got a defense that's ball hungry, and then they're able to use athleticism when required, I think, to really help in terms of the team's successes. Again, it's a 2-5 record for Toronto, but if they would have made they made a boneheaded play against the Riders by kicking it off deeply to Super Mario. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, maybe not the best play. They're an eyelash away from being 3-4 or 4-3. So maybe that's why the computer is giving them a lot of love, even though they're going into Winnipeg. But again, a slight favorite for the Bombers, 50.2%.
So the Riders, record-wise, are the best team in the CFL, and they go into Montreal to play the Alouettes, which is that's always a tough trip, man. I love the setting. The stadium's an absolute dump. The dressing room is a dump underneath there. In fact, sometimes you got to watch where you put your bag in the visitor dressing room because the beer leaks through from the stands into the actual visitor dressing room. Not even joking, okay? It's a great setting. Fans are going there. I love everything about, I like it. But that's not an easy place to play. I don't see the Riders winning that game. I don't know about you, and I don't know about your computer. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be a close game. And if the Riders do happen to win, then that is a statement that they are the best team in the CFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's look at the computer first. The computer this is according to the computer, the most one-sided game this week. 76% chance that the Owls earn the victory. Again, the Owls fresh off a win in Calgary over a top team in the CFL. So again, the computer definitely siding with the Owls in this game. I agree with you, Ballsy. If the Riders pull off a victory, again, they have not won in Montreal since 2021. If they were to go 7-1, which doesn't, again, that happened in 2013, the year we won the Grey Cup. We were, I think, 8-1 before they had a bit of a slide. But that, to me, would signal to the rest of the league that the Riders aren't just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, believe me, I was there to watch the debacles in Montreal, including Caleb Evans, the great Caleb Evans as the quarterback against the Riders.
Yeah, I think even last year, remember 2024, the Riders had the big lead at halftime, and then Davis Alexander emerges. Never heard of him before, and he leads the Owls to the remarkable comeback in the second half. Speaking
of quarterbacks coming back too fast, should you really have rushed Davis Alexander that fast to go back on the 6th game? I don't think McLeod Bethel Thompson is that terrible of a quarterback, and now you got your guy on the shelf for probably minimum 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good point. I guess hindsight's 2020 in terms of that decision. I guess from Montreal's perspective, I'm not saying they haven't clinched a playoff spot yet, but in the East, obviously Hamilton and Montreal have distanced themselves from Ottawa and Toronto, and maybe that's why they could afford to take those chances with bringing in Alexander. Of course, now he's back on the 6th game. Me as the Rider fan, again, I'd love to see a Rider victory, of course, but come on, I've got to be realistic here. If you look at the rest of the season, there's 11 games left. You're going to stub your toe. And to me, this is one game when, if I were the betting person, I'd say, Montreal by 7-10.
So lastly, before I let you go, what's the computer, or do you have this? The computer say anything about a crossover potential with how bad the East teams are versus we got Winnipeg 3-3 and BC's 3-5 now. So is there a crossover? Who's going to finish third, and will we have a crossover?
Yes, according to the computer, a crossover. The Toronto victory over Winnipeg reduced that chance somewhat. But right now, the computer model is looking at basically Calgary, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, BC with a crossover heading into the East Division. So again, that's what it's looking at right now. We'll see what happens as we go. But I think if I were a BC line person, again, you've got 2 long trips now to the East to try to get to the Grey Cup. It's never been done. Saskatchewan probably came the closest in 2017. But we're looking at a possibility of a Grey Cup crossover. Wouldn't that be cool to see 2 Western teams playing in Winnipeg for the 2025 Grey Cup?
Here's what I said to my son the other day. I said, listen, if I'm the Blue Bombers, I'm centrally located in the country. So to go out east isn't as big a deal as some of these other teams, okay? I know it's all charter, but it's not as bad. If I'm the Bombers, I would rather finish in a crossover position and go out east and take my chances out there, come back. Can you imagine a Riders, Blue Bombers Grey Cup in Winnipeg?
Well, Ballsy, the computer does 100,000 iterations of the remaining of regular season and playoff bracket. There was one time out of 100,000 where it was Saskatchewan, Winnipeg playing in the Grey Cup. Winnipeg emerged to the east, played Saskatchewan. To me, that would be the mecca of all meccas for the CFL. What a party atmosphere that would be.
And wouldn't it be, not that I'd want to see it happen where I sit now, but wouldn't that be something? The Riders, it's the kryptonite. Winnipeg is the kryptonite for Saskatchewan. Imagine winning a Grey Cup right in their stadium. Holy cow, Rider Nation would be on absolute fire. I'd be depressed beyond belief, but Rider Nation would be happy as hell.
Well, we did have the victory over Winnipeg in the 2007 Grey Cup. Again, we only have 4 victories, but one of them was against the Bombers. But
not
again,
there. But not there.
In Toronto, our ability to win in Winnipeg, even 25, 30 years ago, was challenging. We went through a real rough stretch, and again, it's been 7 years, Ballsy, since we've won in Winnipeg. That would be, you could do a 30 for 30. Yeah, if we were to have that scenario unveil itself through this year's November Grey Cup.
Well, to me, and that's why the Bombers should rest Zach Collaros, because they've already won the season series with BC. The Calgary series, they've lost already, so they can't win that season series. So I'd rest him these 2 games, and let him get his bearings right, whatever that is. I don't know what it is, but let him get his bearings right and then go from there. That's how I feel. Maybe you can gut out a victory here against Toronto. You're 4-3. Who knows? Maybe you steal one in Calgary, depending on their quarterback situation. But to be 4-4 with what would that be, 10 games left, and you're and getting some guys back healthy, like, I don't know. It's a long season. To
me in the CFL, if you get to 9-9, to me you've got a decent shot of making the playoffs. We know that Winnipeg gets Saskatchewan twice in Manitoba this year,
right,
in the regular season. Maybe there's some credence to what you're saying, Ballsy, that you give the Bombers a chance to. Again, not that you're trying to coast, but they do get they're going to play Edmonton at least one more time this season. They're going to get some more Eastern teams in the schedule. I would, again, being a Rider fan, if the Riders tank the rest of the season, I want us to finish 4th rather than 3rd, because 3rd is a real tough gauntlet to try to get through the Grey Cup.
Having said that, though, Keith, lastly, teams don't. How often do teams we haven't had a crossover Grey Cup, so it can't be that easy.
No, it's not. Against Saskatchewan team, the closest in 2017, they had Ricky Ray 3rd and 5 when they were leading over the Argos 21-18, and then Ray led them down, converted the third down. Cody Fajardo scored the game-winning touchdown for the Argos. So it's tough. But wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool, Ballsy, if this was the year that could happen? You could really sort of right the ship from getting a tremendous Grey Cup matchup in Bomberland.
The Riders are the Rodney Dangerfield of the CFL right now. They're not getting a lot of respect at 6-1. We'll see after the game this weekend if that respect is duly on their doorstep. Thanks for your time, Keith. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ballsy. Go Riders.